Good morning, everyone. This week's Torah portion contains the 10 Commandments, the original top 10 list. And we know that the 10 Commandments were given on 2 tablets, the first 5 on one, the second 5 on the other. And one of the explanations is because the first 10 Commandments are between man and God. The second set of tablets is between man and man. And by putting them side to side, the Torah is saying is that our relationship with our fellow man is as important as our relationship with God. But there's an interesting idea that the 10 Commandments could be read not only 1 through 5 and 6 through 10 vertically, but they could be read horizontally. 1 is linked to 6 and 2 to 7. And one example of this is the 4th commandment, which horizontally is aligned with the 9th commandment. The 4th commandment says, keep the day of Shabbat holy. The 9th commandment says, do not bear false witness. What's the connection? Obvious. When we declare at the Kiddush, Friday night, Yom HaShishi, God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th day, we are testifying that God is the creator of the world. And therefore we are bearing true witness. But if we don't keep Shabbat, we're bearing false witness. We're denying God as the creator of the world. Now, the 9th commandment literally means if you're a witness in a court of law, do not bear false witness. But our rabbis say it's much more than that. When we speak, if we speak gossip, if we speak slander, then we're bearing false witness against another person. And therefore included in the 9th commandment is to never bear false witness, never repeat gossip. Because how do you know it's true? And surely don't speak words of slander. And even if you witness someone do something wrong, you should never repeat it. Why? Because as it says in Ethics of Our Fathers, always judge every single person favorably. Maybe you don't understand what happened. There was a story that happened in Israel. There was a boy who wanted to get married. He called a matchmaker, and she said, I know a wonderful girl in my community for you. I think it would be perfect. And sure enough, the introduction was made. They started dating. They got along really well. And sure enough, they got engaged, and they were preparing for the wedding. Now, the boy lived up north, and the girl lived down south in Beersheba. So he would drive down every week to visit her, to spend time with her as they were getting ready for the wedding. One day, after spending a day with her, he was getting ready to drive all the way back up to the north where he lives. And so she made him some sandwich for the road. And he was looking for like a bag, a Ziploc to put it in. And she said, go look in the kitchen, in the drawer there we have Ziploc bags. As he's looking for the Ziplocs, he accidentally opens another drawer that didn't have the bags, but there he sees bottles of medications, of pills, with his bride's name on it, and he's shocked. He didn't know anything about this. So he's staring at it, he doesn't know what to do, and he quickly writes down the names of the medications. And he gets back home, he calls the family doctor and says, what are these medications? And the doctor says, well, this is for tremors, and this is for this, and this is for that. And one of them is for depression. And suddenly this boy was thrown into a state of disbelief, and he was like, what am I supposed to do now? She didn't tell me anything about this. She has all these medical conditions. She suffers from depression. And after talking to his parents, he decided he wants to call off the shidduch, the wedding. And so he called the matchmaker. He said, listen, I need to call off the wedding. She said, why? You guys were doing great. You're so happy. You're so in love. And he said, I can't tell you, but I just have to call it off. I would like you to go and tell them that I decided to call it off. The matchmaker says, tell me the reason. He refuses. Finally, she says, unless you tell me the reason, I'm not going. You tell me the reason, I promise I won't tell them, but I need to make sure there's a legitimate reason before I do this. So finally he tells her the reason, and she says, I hear you, I understand. It's a big responsibility to take on a girl for life that's going to have all of these challenges. And she agrees to go speak to the girl. The matchmaker goes to speak to the girl and breaks the news. The girl breaks up crying and says, why? I don't understand. And the matchmaker says, I don't know. I don't know. He just told me he's calling it off. Anyways, as the days went on, the matchmaker sees this girl in the street. She looks destroyed, depressed. She used to be a happy, vivacious girl, always smiling and friendly. And now she's walking around like a ghost. No life in her. And finally, the matchmaker said, I have to tell her the reason. I owe that to her. And the matchmaker decides to break her word to the boy and goes to meet with the girl and the family and tells them the reason why he broke it off, that he came across these medicine bottles and he decided he doesn't want it. The girl gets up, bangs on the table and says, "That's not true, that's not true." And the matchmaker says, "What do you mean?" And she says, "We are Sephardic. And in the Sephardic tradition, as everyone knows, we name after the living, after the grandparents who are alive. We don't name after those who are deceased. It's not my medication bottles, it's my grandmother's. I'm the one who puts together her medication every week, her pill box, and brings it to her to make sure she takes her medication. That's why it's in my house. But it's not mine, it's my grandmother's." And at this point, the shotgun was in disbelief, and he says, "I'm so sorry." She says, "Let me call him and explain it." She calls him, and now he can't believe what he did. He starts crying. He says, "I'm so sorry what I put her through. What a mistake." And he decides he's going to drive down and beg her to marry him and apologize. And he comes to meet with her, and he's crying, and she's crying, and he says, "Please forgive me. I made such a terrible mistake. I love you. I want to marry you." And she says, "I forgive you, but I don't know if I want to marry you anymore." We have to be so careful what we say, never to bear false witness, and always give people a favorable judgment. Have a wonderful day.